Hey guys, wanted to make a short intro video about the differences between Diablo 3 and Path of Exile for those that are familiar with the Diablo world but are new to Path of Exile or looking to get into Path of Exile maybe. In Diablo 3, of course, we have our set items that we've been farming up for ages. Typically, you're looking for like a six-piece set and maybe you augment it with a two-piece jewelry set as well as a couple unique items that pertain to a particular skill you want to use. Like in my case, I'm using a multi-shot demon hunter. And of course, we have these runes that affect how multi-shot works to an extent, as far as how much extra damage it deals and what damage type, fire, physical, cold, lightning, that sort of thing. And with Diablo, you really only have these few choices of just give me the base skill with no rune, or give me one of these five options, and that's it. And the only other thing that changes how that works is maybe a special unique item that has this orange text at the bottom, like for this one that says, "Hey, when an enemy gets below this percentage of life, you actually get to hit them twice instead of once," which is neat. And then, of course, we have our sockets, and in the Diablo world, these are just basically just flat stat boosters. Um, so, green, the emeralds were classic dex gems, red, strength, strength flat damage, and critical damage for the emerald. And most of the builds in Diablo go for critical hit, critical damage, and that sort of thing. And then you're off and running with your six-piece set. And that'll take you all the way through the end game content for Diablo. So let's get over to Path of Exile for a second. Um, so with Diablo, your multi-shot for the Demon Hunter, that is directly tied to the Demon Hunter. No other character class in that game gets to use the multi-shot skill. For better or worse, that makes your classes kind of unique. Um, and in Path of Exile, your attack skills are actually skill gems. And the gems are always about skills. They're not really any sort of flat stats to your character. So for this one, up at the top, you see it's called Cyclone. Uh, and the items in Path of Exile they have sockets and they have colors. The color of the skill has to go into the same color socket. The white color socket is a multicolor or any universal slot for that matter. So we'll put my one Cyclone gem in here for a second with my armor piece, and that's how this Cyclone skill becomes available for my character to use. If I don't have this skill gem on my character on any one of my pieces somewhere, I can no longer use that skill. Here's my full list of skills that I can use at this present time. So the good news about that is any character class in this game can use any skill. The only real requirements, you can see near the top, just a little below Cyclone, it gives you some types like attack, AoE, duration, melee, movement. That's modifier or kind of like the class of the skill. Your skill gems have levels. We'll get to that in a different video. And then down a couple more lines it says requires level. That level requirement, along with the stat requirements next to it, that is really the only thing that determines whether or not your character can use the skill or not. Path of Exile's got like 8 character classes. They can all use Cyclone if they wanted to, presuming they had the stats shown above. So then these other gems that we have, so the legendary affixes, so to speak, from Diablo, these are more in the form of support gems. And basically all you need for that is you have these sockets here with this little bar in between them. That's called a link. If you have a skill gem with a link, you put a support gem there, and that support gem's affixes now affect your skill that you have linked to it. And you can actually have uh, multiple support gems in this case. So we've got a more elemental damage, faster attacks. If I have both of these socketed with Cyclone, Cyclone gets the benefit of both of these. And so your goal really is to get a fully socketed, fully linked item and basically take your one skill and plug it up with all of the support gems you can. And we'll show you what that does. So we'll unsocket these for a second. So we'll show down here at the bottom. So we got a little box that says Cyclone, and then sort of a sheet damage DPS, and then down near the bottom box, it tells you like what damage types you deal with this skill at this present time. So we've got a bunch of fire damage, AoE. While we're using it, we move slower, and that sort of thing. So let's make note of the roughly 15,000 DPS and the 1,700 to 2,600 fire damage. So I'm just going to throw in one support gem. All right, so we're just going to get the the 49% more multiplier and an additional 10% on top of that for this particular gem. We'll throw this back up here. We can see the support gem is active. This particular one shows up as a little F. That's how you know the support gem is active and working. You can also note that the DPS went from 15,000 up to 23,000, and the base fire damage down there at the bottom went from 1,700 up to 2,500 for the minimum, and 2,600 up to 3,900 for the max. So really what we're going to do here is we're going to fill this out like we're playing for the end game. So we've got a fully linked 6-link item, and so our measly 15,000 DPS went up to 96,000 DPS. For Path of Exile, that's like the billions range for Diablo 3 as far as the stat crunching goes. And then for Path of Exile, there's no concept of set items. They have the legendary items or unique items are still the same kind of goldish color that you're familiar with. Rare items are yellowish color, and what you're really doing is you're still picking out like just a handful of unique items to work with in coordination with like a particular skill or two, and that's really kind of the same thing as aiming for a set with a particular skill in Diablo. So we have this 6-link Cyclone. We got this big 2-handed axe that I wanted to use that does a bunch of fire damage. Here's an amulet that this avatar fire skill converts a bunch of damage to fire damage. And that's really what we're doing down here is we're trying to convert all of our damage to fire damage, which is elemental for purposes of this elemental focus gem and this other elemental damage gem. That's where these multipliers come into effect. And that's how we try to min-max our stats in Path of Exile. Most of your gear, or a good portion of your gear, is just going to be rare items. So they're going to have, just similar to Diablo, where you're going to have like 5 or 6 affixes on them. Instead of re-rolling a stat at the Mystic, they give you they've changed this recently. It's now a crafting bench. So you put your skill down here. The stat at the bottom of the item that says 19% increased elemental damage, it's highlighted in the lighter blue. That is your crafted affix on your item. And they give you a whole list of things that you can apply. They have similar affix rules to Diablo, where you get like 3 prefixes, 3 suffixes, and they list them out in a pretty neat format now. So depending on what your character needs at that time, you could still use like a base item, like if I really like this ring, and let's say I don't need that elemental damage. Let's say I need let's say I need life leech or something like that, I can spend, these are basically just currency items. These are like your gold from Diablo. And I can just hit replace, and that will replace my elemental damage with physical attack damage. And then if I want to go back, I just, keep this here, hit replace again, and there it rolls back the elemental damage. And then you re-equip and you're good to go. So this gives you a whole lot of flexibility on item crafting and that sort of thing. The gold, there is no real gold in Path of Exile. You get these currency items which all do something to your items. So like for this weapon, you see it's got quality plus 30%. The quality of a weapon generally increases the flat damage. So for this one, the physical damage that's highlighted in blue up at the top, that quality up there modified that from its base value. On armor pieces, quality improves the value of the armor. Basically just the raw value. They also give you a whole bunch of these other stat or item modifying currency pieces. So these let you craft. You basically take like a normal like white item, same like Diablo white item, and this would like bump it up from normal to magic, so it would get a random 1 to 2 affixes. This currency item says, hey, that magic item that I have, I don't like those affixes, re-roll it. Here we go. This one is just take an item and roll the dice. You might get a magic, you might get a rare, you might get a unique. It is scaled to give you a magic item higher percentage of the time. For these rare items, they give you this currency. This chaos orb is really sort of the main, what you would call currency, trading currency for Path of Exile. The only thing it does for you in game is it lets you re-roll all the stats on a rare item. So if you didn't like any of the stats on this rare item, you right-click this and left-click on the item you want, and it starts re-rolling all the bits. And there's all sorts of items that affect like the number of sockets, the number of links, the colors of the sockets. We mentioned the quality of the item. If you go, hey, I screwed up, there's a item that just says, hey, start over from a blank slate, and that sort of thing. So there's a heavy amount of time and skill investment involved with crafting items. For the basic person, you can just go to one of their websites that helps facilitate in-game trading of items, to where you can get an item that's got most of the stats you want, and then you like craft the one more that you need to help you out for that part of the game. But there you have it. That's kind of the intro differences of skills and itemization in a nutshell between Diablo 3 and Path of Exile. Hope you guys enjoy your time, and possibly see you in game. Have a good night.